Hello everyone, how are you doing today? So today we're going to tackle into two topics. First, do ketogenic diet have something in common with fasting? I'm pretty sure you've asked yourself that before. The answer to that is yes. Ketogenic diet and fasting have several things in common. The main one is that they both bring our bodies into a ketosis state, which means basically that when the glucose in the blood is scarce, our body breaks down fat, forming ketone bodies. These ketone bodies are a fuel for our brain. Our brain becomes powered by ketones. That is the main thing in common with ketosis with fasting. So basically the breakdown of fat tissue. Fat tissue becomes accessible to be burned when sorry about that. When our body starts breaking down fat, basically what happens is that triglycerides, they are break down in two components, glycerol and fatty acids. Fatty acids are used by most of our body organs. And the glycerol, here comes something very interesting. Well, maybe you were wondering yourself, like when we are fasting, we don't have glucose, right? Because we are not ingesting glucose. However, in order for our body to produce glucose, we don't always need to ingest glucose or carbs, because when glucose is scarce, glucose can be produced in the liver out of glycerol. And glycerol comes from body fat breakdown. Isn't that great news? Indeed it is. So again, from body fat breakdown, we get three things: ketone, fatty acids, and glycerol. From glycerol, we get glucose production in the liver. Fatty acids are used by most of our body tissues, and the ketones. Ketones are fuel for our brain. There is even a book written by Jimmy Moore, and the title is Mental Clarity, which is basically how our brain becomes powered by ketones and how people experience this state of mental clarity. And mental clarity is something that can be achieved with intermittent fasting. Yes, it is. It's really great, because just imagine you wake up, you don't have to prepare your breakfast, you just have to prepare whatever fluids are allowed during your fast, and you get to focus on things you're working on, whatever is your work or some project you're working on. You get that mental clarity, you get some extra time because you don't have to worry. You don't have to worry a lot, like thinking, oh, what I'm gonna eat or things like that. So it's pretty cool, isn't it? Well, that's one point I wanted to share with you today. Let me see. Conclusion. During fasting, we can manufacture enough glucose to power the entire body, simply from body fat. Let me read that for you again. During fasting, we can manufacture enough glucose to power the entire body simply from body fat. So you don't have to worry about having, like saying, oh, my body is depleted of glucose. Because really, our body can just function well without the need of having to ingest them. Very good. Second point I want to share with you today. How can we choose what we have to eat? Yes, so what parameters can we base ourselves on our food choices? That's something very important too when it comes to metabolism. Because remember, we want to keep a healthy metabolism. We want to keep insulin levels low. So, a glucose index, that's one. Second one, glucose. ¿Cómo está, doña Ceci?
Una hoja se me ha volado.
No he visto nada.
Ay, qué lenta,
Tal vez ella sabe. All right, glycemic index. Glycemic index, glycemic load, insulin index. So we are going to use here glycemic load and insulin index. The glycemic load takes into account the serving sizes. That's why it's more useful in the practical world. Insulin glycemic load reflects how much the glucose level are risen when we eat carbs. And basically, and insulin index is for non-carbs, mostly, like, for example, meats and everything that's non-carbs. What food can we choose that doesn't raise the insulin levels? I'll give you an example because just the theoretical part might sound boring. All right. So, for example, when it comes to meat, we use the insulin index, right? We have to consume everything that's 30% less insulin index. There is a chart. I believe I have posted before the chart, but if I didn't, I'm gonna post it again. So it's a pretty useful guide for you to look at through and know which one you think is better, right? Turkey, 23%. All right, listen here. Beef, 51%. Can you imagine? Beef is 51%, which makes it to have an insulin index high, whereas turkey has a insulin index low. All right, another example. Eggs. When it comes to eggs, ¿qué quieres, mamita? Un ratito, ¿ya? When it comes to eggs white have a 55% of insulin index, whereas the yolk is 15%. Can you imagine? Egg yolk has a insulin index low, which is pretty good for us, whereas egg white has a high insulin index. So yeah, I remember when I was told that eating white eggs was more healthy because it was low in cholesterol, because it had less calories. But here, it's not about calories. It is about how our metabolism reacts to food. So calorie counting really doesn't apply much. So since I got to know this, I include my yolk in my egg. And it's pretty yummy too, right? I'm gonna post the formula of the glycemic load and insulin index so you can know where that's coming from. There is also a chart of glycemic load for juices. For example, coconut water has a low glycemic load, less than 10. Everything that is less than 10 has a low glycemic load. Whereas, well, that's coconut water. Let's compare bagel and buckwheat loaf. A bagel has 25 of glycemic load, which makes it a high glycemic load. That makes it not a very good choice. Whereas buckwheat loaf, that only has 10 of glycemic load. So if you have to choose between a bagel and a buckwheat loaf bread, well, maybe it would be a good idea to choose the second one. Very good. So now I have to go. Just remember, something I wanted to mention here. The weight loss and fasting, as in average, you get to lose half a pound per day. So, however, the longer you have a struggle with obesity and overweight, the more difficult it could be. The recipe is just simply persist and be patient. Remember, patience and persistence. All right, folks. Bye bye.